All right, this is going to be short and sweet, straight to the point. This is your boy, man, Mike, coming at you guys with an absolute rant. All right, this is the type of crap that really pisses me off, because this is one of the numbers that is just embarrassing. Right? There's nothing nice about this, nothing cool about this, there's nothing smiley. Look. This just pisses you the absolute hell off. All right, so what the hell am I talking about? You see the screen right here. All right, Matt Williamson, thank you for this particular number and tweet, but it goes a little something like this. All right, over the last 5 years, the Falcons have the fewest sacks. All right, Steelers with the most. Over the past 10 years, the Falcons have the fewest sacks. All right, the Steelers have the most. And over the last 20 years, the Falcons have the fewest sacks. Steelers have the most. You see what the problem is? Yeah, this is the fucking problem. And the thing is, with this particular instance and this particular point, it really pisses me off. It's because the blame is going somewhere else. And I know a lot of people are probably saying to themselves, like, who the hell is the blame? Who is the blame? It should be Terry Fontenot. Should it be a guy like Thomas Dimitroff? All these guys, general managers coming in, and we've seen this particular instance over and over and over again. It just isn't getting any better. We brought in defensive coordinators, we brought in defensive guys, and it didn't get any better. And I'm probably to blame. You probably saying to yourself, who the hell is to blame? All right, let's go over Terry Fontenot, okay? All right, we're gonna look at Terry Fontenot. Did a pretty good job of bringing in guys, the Atlanta Falcons, guys like Calais Campbell, Bud Dupree, all these guys would come in. The Atlanta Falcons, under those guys, I think they had nearly 40 sacks, all right? 40 sacks. That year with Dean Pease and those guys, with Ryan Nielsen and whatnot. These guys came in, brought in a lot of good talent, put up some decent numbers as far as sacks is concerned, and wasn't consistent as we would hope year after year. But when you look at the Atlanta Falcons, it's been an absolute atrocity. But they did a good job, all right? And that's for a single year. And this has been the problem. No consistency whatsoever. So the conversation is whether or not we should be pointing the finger at a guy like Terry Fontenot to see what's the issue. All right? This is my thing. Terry Fontenot is not at the blame. He's not to blame in this situation. He brings in the talent, but I've always said, if you don't bring in the right coaches, none of this shit matters. It doesn't matter. Period, point blank. So the question lies, should we be pointing the finger at Arthur Blank? Now, Arthur Blank, to a certain extent, you look at him and you probably say, like, all right, he does deserve a bit of blame. I don't think anybody would deny that. He does deserve a bit of a blame. Why? It's because he's the owner. And we know for the most part, when you look at this guy and Rich McKay, this is where I have a big problem. I have a huge problem with this. It's because Rich McKay knows better. He's been in the league. He's been with an organization that they prioritize defensive linemen. The great Warren Sapp, Simeon Rice, all these guys, Antonio Booger McFarland, all these guys have been a huge part of defense. A huge part of that organization, and they put up some big time numbers in regards to sacks and whatnot. So I'm gonna take a second right here to go off the rails. So if you guys got your kids around, forgive me, but this piece of absolute shit and Rich McKay, he knows better. He knows better. Arthur Blank, at the end of the day, is an owner. Period, point blank. Now we can say that he doesn't, you can say whether or not, he shouldn't allow certain things to happen, and you're absolutely right. But at the end of the day, when you got a guy that has well over 40, 50 yards and their family is a part of a huge part of the NFL, And I'm talking about for years. Over 40, 50 years his family's been in the game. And you still were the organization as the team president. Year after year. This is the same guy that went out, traded multiple. We brought in a guy like Johnny Abraham. So you know for a fact that the impact of a particular franchise that you can help build around, you know the importance of the defensive lineman. You know the importance of a pass rush. And yet you sit here for 20 plus years with the Atlanta Falcons watching this absolutely debacle. It's absolutely embarrassing for a guy that's supposed to be a football guy to sit back and watch this team for 20 years as a football guy. And you do absolutely nothing. You bring in guys that you want. Why? It's because this dude is going to do whatever you want him to do. You can control him. You're worried about being in control. You're worried about having your way instead of bringing in the right coaches that are going to get the job done. And that's what goes into the situation when I'm talking about a guy like Rich McKay. If the Atlanta Falcons would have brought in Rex Ryan, we wouldn't even be talking about this. If you brought in a defensive coordinator like a Bill Belichick, a guy that has a long history of developing pass rushers, developing defensive linemen, having great defenses year after year after year, we wouldn't even be talking about this. And we hired the right guys to come in and help develop the talent that we draft year after year, we wouldn't even be talking about this. So I'm not going to point the finger at Raheem. I'm not going to point the finger at Dan Quinn. I'm not going to point the finger at Mike Smith, all these guys. I'm pointing the finger at Rich McKay. This dude, still to this day, has a grips on this organization, and this is what we're saying year after year after year. We still don't have the necessary tools to get after the quarterback. We're absolutely an embarrassment. So I'm not going to sit up here and blame all the coaches, the Raheem Morris and all these guys, because let's be honest, if they were really qualified and they were really that good, we wouldn't be struggling to get pass rush. We wouldn't struggle to get sacks. We need to bring in the necessary coaches and the necessary system in order to get the best out of this Atlanta Falcons team. So my thing, let's stop blaming Raheem. Let's stop blaming Terry. Let's stop blaming Arthur Blank, because at the end of the day, what Arthur Blank is, he's an owner. He's not necessarily a football guy. We don't blame the AD for Georgia Bulldogs if the Georgia Bulldogs are not getting pressure on the quarterback, they're not getting sacks, and they're not playing quality defense. We either go to the head coach, which the head coach is a defensive guy in Kirby Smart. He knows how to apply pressure. He knows how to build defense. He knows how to develop talent. And this is what we have to stop doing. We got to stop blaming everybody else for a team president that has been in the league and his family has been a major part of the NFL for years. We're blaming Arthur. We're blaming Terry. We're blaming TD. We blame everybody else except for the people that really needs to be, except all the people that needs to be blamed. At some point, we got to look at the guy that needs to be gone. Period, point blank. He needs no part of this Atlanta Falcons team. No parts of this Atlanta Falcons team. And that's Rich McKay. So until Arthur Blank says to himself that Rich McKay no longer needs to be a part of this team, and no longer needs to be have a control, a stake over this team, we're not going to have the defense. We're going to continue to be a good offensive team. We're going to continue to be a good offensive team and watch our defenses get smoked year after year after year. Year after year after year. There's a general consensus here. There's an easy tell. And that easy tell is the guy in the smack dab center of this particular picture. And that's Rich McKay. Period. Point blank. But does that mean that Arthur Blank is excused from what we're seeing? Absolutely not. At the end of the day, we cannot continue to watch this Atlanta Falcon defense do absolutely nothing year after year. We're at the bottom of the league in sacks and pressures year after year. Let's do something about it. And it starts with Arthur Blank. It starts with the team presidents and the football guys. This is your boy, man, Mike. Let me know what you guys think about this. I'm out of here, man. Peace.